Good afternoon, everyone. Calling to order the Public Safety Standing Committee for the City of Annapolis. It is June the 3rd at 2:06 p.m. So we'll now have the roll call. Alderwoman O'Neill,
Present.
Alderman Gay, here, and I'm here as your chair. Approval of the agenda, and we're gonna, with some slight movement, Office of Emergency Management is not quite here yet, so we'll start with the fire department. And can we have a motion to adjust the agenda?
Motion to approve agenda as amended, removing meeting minutes 5.5 and moving Annapolis Fire Department ID 3525 to the top of discussion.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? I hear none. Okay, next on the agenda is the appointment and reappointment, AP 3725, the reappointment, Ms. Kathy Sulick, Police and Retirement Plan Commission. Can I get a motion to approve this reappointment?
I'll make a motion for a favorable recommendation for Ms. Stewart.
Okay, I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? I hear none. It will be forwarded to our colleague. Next on the agenda, general discussion, ID 3525, Annapolis Fire Department update AFD. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Deputy Fire Chief.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And today we are focusing on Ward 2.
Chief Lopez thoroughly locked the laptop out the tab.
It was email, but I didn't even see that. Stand by.
We can move forward without it if you're okay with that, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. If this is the worst thing that happens today, we're doing really well.
Right.
I concur.
There we are.
Oh,
Thank you. That's right. I can pull it out of the while.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. There we are.
Okay. I think we're ready.
That looks lovely.
And we have
Good will of
Alderwoman
death,
O'Neill
ma'am.
here, who represents Ward 2, so that makes it even better.
While he's loading, we'll just go over an overview of what is contained in our presentation. We'll talk about citywide response statistics for the last month and year to date. We'll focus on Ward 2, our responses there. Any operational challenges which we may have or find in Ward 2. And then just some general updates of how we're doing in our department. Is it frozen again?
It's frozen.
Frozen.
Well,
Yours is working.
it's not ours.
Sorry.
Sorry, ma'am.
Not my IT day.
Oh, not that.
Mm-mm.
Sorry.
The other one seemed to be working. That one's just frozen. Voila. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sorry for the technology, man.
That's all right.
If you could go ahead a couple to talked about our overview of what we were going to discuss.
Ward 2.
And Ward 2, in calendar year 2024, this Annapolis Fire Department responded to 13,684 unique incidents. Of those, 1,347 were in Ward 2. In calendar year 24, you were our busiest of the city's 8 wards. So far this year, we have responded to 5,494 responses. That includes city and our mutual aid partners into the county and the Naval Academy. So far this year, 591 times we've been to Ward 2. So again, just over 10%, and currently are still our busiest ward within the city. Again, go ahead, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Do you have any idea what makes?
No, not wholly. We do spend a lot of time, and I touch on this in a slide a couple down. We spend a lot of time at a couple particular locations within the ward. The Morris Plum Senior High Rise, we visit there a lot. The Naval Academy Stadium, due to special events, we see a lot. So there's some high value, not high value, but high frequency response areas within your ward that I think elevate that number a little bit. And geographically, your ward's fairly large too, encompassing from Admiral Heights all the way through to West Annapolis.
Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So last year, we've left this slide in each presentation because if there's only folks from Ward 2 viewing today, I do want them to know that we're trending downward in a fire loss dollar valuation. Last year, we had a great year. We only had a $450,000 property valuation loss from fire within the city. And as you can see, that's down significantly from the past years. So again, Ward 2 is geographically large. We don't have tremendous amount of challenge with anything in Ward 2. Largely, your ward is mostly residential, which is fine for us. We handle that fine. Single family and multifamily dwelling. There is some retail and mixed use occupancies. Again, the Morris Plum Senior High Rise in 2024, we visited there 336 times. And so far this year, 141. That's just I think some of the demographic of the age that population base requires our services and help a little bit more proportionately than the rest of the population. And again, it's not problematic. It's a fact of where we go, how often. And I did note also that you have the Navy Marine Corps Stadium within your ward. So some high profile events occur for you also.
We were also dealing with the elevators being down in Morris Bloom much of last summer.
So we did that. That was a challenge for us last summer with the elevator replacement project. I feel great about the partnership that we have with OEM and how we were able to work through that challenge with the contractors and come up with agreeable solutions that minimize the impact for number one, for the citizens while maintaining safety for them and for our crews. So we worked through it.
Great. Thanks.
Our new fire engine that we've been talking about is currently at the dealership, Atlantic Emergency Solutions in Baltimore, where it's having the very final items installed before we take possession and delivery of it. We look forward to that happening within the next month or so, and then we'll need to install radios and just some minor things, and should be able to get that in service at the Forest Drive station pretty promptly. We've continued to work with our vendor for our new fireboat. We've finalized most of the design details for that. It's scheduled to go into production in either July or August at Metalcraft Marine, and they're telling us a 12-month delivery from when it goes on production. So next summer, we'll see that. I'll turn it over to my colleague for some other departmental updates.
So as we've been talking about the last few months, our strategic planning process, historically, the last time we did this was in 2004. We are using the Center for Public Safety Excellence model. The committee established a diverse cross-section of the fire departments. We currently are working with an internal group of stakeholders and have a focus group that is working on developing our plan. The next stage is, as I mentioned last month, we are coordinating with the city PIO and this acting city manager to coordinate external stakeholder focus groups to then have a final document, draft document to the fire chief by September for eventually review by the city council. Some other notes, as the fire chief has mentioned, we have 4 firefighters who are in recruit school. 2 have recently passed, firefighter 1 and firefighter 2, and 2 others have just begun their firefighter training. They started EMT. All are doing well and progressing nicely. Additionally, we have 2 firefighters who are detailed out of the field who are in paramedic school. Their positions are being backfilled with overtime. One is at the Howard County Fire Department, their internal paramedic training program, and the other one is at Anne Arundel County Community College. An additional note is that today the fire department hosted a private company who is developing cutting-edge technology for the fire ground that was identified at a recent conference by one of our lieutenants. We will be training with their technology over the next couple of weeks to get some data for the company as they work to build out their product and hopefully make it available for the fire service.
Can you repeat that again, Lopez? What is that again?
So it's a piece of technology that is being developed for the fire ground to improve safety and fire department activities in a active fire situation. We call it a fire ground when you're at a scene, rescuing people, putting out fire, that sort of thing. It's called the fire ground.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, it's a local idiom.
So the device they're developing actually mounts on a firefighter's helmet, and through the technology, it allows, it's called a see-through device. It will use thermal imaging technologies to go through smoke, identify persons, allow a better vision of the room that may be obscured by smoke or darkness. So they're in the development phase, and they have identified, I think, 20 departments across the country to test their device with and provide feedback for their continuing research and development. It's being supported by DHS, Department of Homeland Security, grant funding. So we were identified as a department that they wanted to work with. So we have actually a group of our personnel today who are doing some training evolutions with their company. And then we will retain a few of the devices for 2 weeks to continue to work and then provide some structured feedback to them.
That's great.
It's exciting. It's nationally, it's a very small percentage of departments were identified to work and help with them. So we're proud that we were able to be a part of that.
And that will be in your city manager's report the next go round. Is that correct?
It will, yes, ma'am. Along with the feedback we provided. It may be good, it may be great, or they may need to go back and continue some development, but that's why they're testing, and that's why we're a part of that.
Great. Congratulations
Thank you.
for being chosen.
And that closes out our report for this month.
Okay. Alderwoman O'Neill?
I don't have any questions. I know that you guys do a great job. You were on my street last week, apparently a gas leak, and everybody was very kind to the neighbors that were all coming out asking questions. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
Thank you all so much, as
Yes, ma'am.
always.
Thank you.
Be safe out there.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is ID 3625, Office of Emergency Management update. Director Simmons. Good afternoon, Chief. How are you today?
I'm fine. How's the panel?
Everybody's doing well.
I feel like it's better.
So chime in anytime.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Kevin Simmons, Emergency Manager for the City of Annapolis. Hope all is well.
All is well.
This is our updates for the Public Safety Committee. We usually talk about two things, the Food Friday program, and we talk about overdoses. As per usual, this is the outline of the Food Friday program. It gives boxes of fresh and canned fruits and vegetables, frozen meat, rice, pasta, and other non-perishable foods to residents of Annapolis. We do about 300 boxes. We do it at rec and parks. Food is provided by the Anne Arundel County Food Bank. We've been doing this for 7 years. I take it nod means I'm right. So we're talking about Ward 2 today. Some Food Friday stats is that we service 76 families, 186 individuals, 30 seniors, and 61 children. And most of our business is in the Clay Street area. For 47 individuals and 15 families, which is about 20% of our deliveries in Ward 2. Here's a little heat map. It shows our distribution of Food Friday boxes around the Clay Street corridor mostly. And you can actually see where they go. Overbury Court, New Vernon, etc., Town Pines, Clay Street, West Washington, Monument, Pleasant Street, etc. Any questions there?
Great job.
So let's talk about substance use disorder. Ward 2, compared to previous years, Ward 2's reported overdoses in 2024 was the third lowest since 2015. And 2015 is the year we started keeping records on substance use disorder. So this is the third lowest. So that's 9 overdoses all of last year, recorded overdoses. Ward 2 reported the 5th lowest number of overdoses compared to other wards. In first place, the lowest was Wards 5 and 7, tied at 2 apiece. Second is Ward 8 at 5. Ward 3, in third place, Ward 1. And then fourth place is Ward 2. We had 5 fatal overdoses that were reported in Ward 2, includes 1 pending. In 2023, Ward 2 had only 1 overdose. Again, when we total up all overdoses in the city of Annapolis, it always runs about 10%. So we could get overdoses down, but it seems like our fatals always are stuck at 10%. Narcan uses reported was only about 33% of all the overdoses in Ward 2. Here's the locations of overdoses. 2 on Glenwood Street, 2 on Calvert, 2 on West Washington, 1 on Brewer, 1 on North Linden, and 1 in New Vernon. And Glenwood, West Washington, Brewer, and New Vernon were all fatals. So identified hotspots, 78% of Wards 2 overdose are along the or within the few blocks of Clay Street. Overdose by demographics in Ward 2, by age group, by far the 25 to 34 age range by far outdistance some of the other ones. Tied with them is the age range of 55 to 64. At both of them at 3 last year. Remember, we had 9 total overdoses. The 35 to 44-year-old range had 2, and then 1 is 65 plus. Ward 2 age ranges align with the historical trend citywide. However, 25% of the age group of 55 plus comes from Ward 2. The other 50% is from Ward 3. It has 50% or the most at that age range. And then overdoses by race. 6 were African American, and 3 were white. In 2024, 65% of all overdoses in the city were African American. So I always like to show the heat map where all the overdose activity is for 2024. The red is the locations of the overdoses. The green is outreach programs provided by the mayor's office and NAM. The police department is APD, SUD, and the Office of Emergency Management and the fire department. So these are outreach locations all in green. And you can see where we have a high concentration of red, where the overdoses were. Then we have a high concentration of outreach to follow up.
Can you explain the outreach activity? Is that people on the ground? Is that
That's people on the ground, and what we have the 4 programs, and the police department, they deal with a lot of juveniles, right? The fire department, they have a teaching component. They're at houses of worship, businesses, etc. They're also at outreach events. The Office of Emergency Management, OD-free, does a lot of statistics, data trends. Once we get the data trends, we relay that to other folks to respond with the outreach programs. The mayor's office, they do a lot in engagement, especially with young people, African American groups as well. So there you have it.
So that would be even the pop-up resource fairs in the summer as well? Does that include that as well?
Right, and what we don't talk about as much, but they're great help, is the health department. So they have their programs too, and they give blanket coverage to Annapolis as well. Any other questions on that? Thank you. All right, so let's just finish up with the hurricane outlook. Hurricane seasons runs from June 1st to November 30th. What they are predicting is a pretty active hurricane season. We are a coastal community, so we can expect, if not a hurricane, a tropical storm, some type of tropical weather of some sort. So they're looking at 13 to 19 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 major hurricanes this year. So we're going to have a pretty active year. Just so you know what type of categories these hurricanes are, Category 1 is about 74 to 95 miles an hour. That gets you some damage, some roof damage, maybe affect power. Category 2 is up to 110 miles per hour, major damage, major roof damage. Power will likely be out for several days. Category 3 up to 129 miles per hour is devastating. Major home damage, power and water will be affected possibly for weeks. Category 4 up to 156 miles an hour, catastrophic damage. This will take months and months to recover from. And then 156 miles per hour plus catastrophic damage. Many homes will be destroyed. We're talking Katrina type things right there. So we're going to be affected being a coastal community like we are. We just don't know how. So just to kind of let you know what's happened to us in the past, we had Isabel in 2003. That was a Category 5 that was downgraded to a tropical storm before it got to us. That was the highest flooding recorded level in Annapolis history at 7.16 feet. Irene, that's a year after I got here, that was a Category 3, downgraded to a tropical storm. Trees down citywide, if you can remember that. 9,500 without power. We opened up a shelter to shelter residents back then. Sandy, which Sandy came at the tail end of hurricane season around Halloween. Category 3, downgraded to a post-tropical cyclone, did some damage in this area, especially Western Maryland. We had 2,600 to 2,800 without power. We opened up a shelter for residents then. And I do believe with Irene and Sandy, we had the National Guard in Annapolis. Ida, which happened during COVID, Category 4, downgraded to a tropical depression. That spun up a tornado on West Street and Parole. And we all remember September 1st, 2021.
Yes, we do.
And we still have a family recovering.
Say that again.
We still have a family still recovering from
Yes.
that. One family. So we don't recover till everybody recovers. So we're still working. And then also in 2021, we had Debbie, Category 1 storm downgraded to a tropical storm, the 10th highest flooding on record in the city of Annapolis at 4.5 feet. So the challenges will be kind of getting through the hurricane season unscathed. So we're making all our preparations right now. We'll have a press release come out tomorrow and start making sure that the Annapolis residents, citizens, and visitors are prepared. If I can ask you to do one thing for anyone in the city of Annapolis, is download Prepare Me Annapolis app so they can stay in touch with our messages and what we want folks to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I do not have any.
I do not have any questions.
Oh, yes, actually.
Go right
I have
ahead.
one. When we talk about the efforts and having boots on the ground, currently in Ward 2, there are not any dispensaries for Narcan, like we have in Ward 6. And
When you're talking about the Narcan vending machine,
vending machines, thank you. All I could think of was dispensary.
thank you. Well, we've been talking to the health department about getting more vending machines. I think that's about, I want to say $20,000. I'm not sure, but we would have to identify some places in Ward 2. If you can remember, with the wellness mobile, we were looking at putting that at Pleasant Street. There was a space between the row of houses. We were thinking about, we couldn't get the vehicle up there. We tried to be creative on where to put the Wellmobile. That didn't work out. But at the time, Ward 4 and Ward 6 were having the most overdose. So we found it prudent to put it there sometime during the week, and then Ward 6 sometime during the week. We have, I think Shirley Gordon lives on Clay Street, or used to. She was great about making sure, because he had something on her door said Narcan's here. So we have a couple of people on Clay Street that do have Narcan, and people know where it is. As you know, I'm on Clay Street just about every other day.
Right.
So I feel comfortable with that,
Okay.
but we can always do more, and we're going to look for opportunities to do better. Not that we're doing bad.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Not a problem. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you much. Have a good afternoon.
And last but not least, ID 3425, Annapolis Police Department update. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Give me 1 second. Are we ready? We ready? Oh, no. Okay. No, I'm sorry. Just let me know when you're ready. Okay, we're going to start off with crime trends. Okay, good afternoon. First of all, I thought that we would start with crime trends, index crime, or Group A, I think we call it now. We still refer to them as Part 1
Chief.
crimes.
Can you introduce yourself and your team, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I made an assumption. To my immediate left is Captain Lamar Howard. To my immediate right is Deputy Chief Stanley Branford. To his right is Captain Thacker. To his right is Keisha Blue. And to her right is Captain Miguez. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just before we close up, gentlemen, just want to remind you, next month, July, we'll be focusing on wards 5 and 7. Thank you so much. Sorry for the interruption.
And as I always do, I'll just give an overview and then I'll have Captain Howard to speak into more specifics. And then I guess everybody at this table is qualified to answer any trends when it comes to crime. But overall, crime is down by 8% this year. And that's all crime, both crimes against persons and crimes against property. In 2025, we've had 3 homicides compared to just 1 last year. Of the 3 homicides, 2 suspects have been identified. 1 suspect is now a defendant. He's in custody. The other one, we have a warrant for his arrest. We're still looking out for, and then 1 is unsolved. And I think the 3 locations was the homicide involving the victim, Mr. Wells, on Tyler Avenue, 1300 block of Tyler Avenue. The other guy was Hoklaw, the 18-year-old male. That's the one that's unsolved. And then, of course, the homicide of Mr. Sims on Clay Street that involved the shooting of the 11-year-old boy waiting for the bus stop. So that's an overview of our homicides. Shootings were up slightly. Shooting victims, we had 7 so far this year as compared to 4 the same period last year. Shots fired reports, we have 12 as compared to 13 last year. And then so the total non-contact shootings, discharges, 22 so far this year as compared to 18 last year. But I was looking at my iPhone a little bit before I came. I looked at trends nationally. What I'm proud to report, thanks to the men and women that are sitting at this table, even cities comparable in size to Annapolis in terms of population and a whole lot of dynamics, other jurisdictions haven't had the success that we've had. So I'm quick to account for our crime, not in terms of the size of the city and the or the paucity or the low numbers. I credit it to good police work and good proactive policing and a real plan that addresses the needs, the causes of crime, and then a plan that demonstrates how we are going to react to crime for the things that we didn't prevent. And that's the cornerstone of how we arrived at these numbers. You have to do either 2 things: do your very best to prevent it, but then once it occurs, also do your very best to find out who was responsible, especially violent crime. and hold them accountable. So that's the overall.
Chief, I have a question.
Mhm.
We got a couple upticks in a few categories there. Can you tell us possibly why?
Well, many of them is especially in violent crime. We know that property crime often is a result of drug addiction when you're breaking in cars and those things. Stealing cars are a little more trickier. Sometimes they're used for the sole purpose of committing robberies and also exacting revenge or retaliation for neighborhood disputes. And so that accounts for, a lot of the property crime. Of course, the number one issue here in the city of Annapolis for a slight uptick in crime are neighborhood or community disputes. Most of the suspects and the victims are known to one another. We've had a few incidents this year that resulted from social media. And then there's a culture that we're experiencing now, not only in the city of Annapolis, but it's a national trend. And the culture is that young people have more access to guns, I think, than any time in the history of our country. And I say young people, people who are under 18 years of age, not even legal adults. And they're willing to use those guns very quickly to solve the simplest of disputes that a generation ago may have ended up in a physical altercation, but definitely didn't rise to the level of deadly force. So those are the kind of trends that we're seeing. It's a social problem. I say that all the time. I say it quickly. I know what I'm talking about, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, but they're social problems. They're not crime problems. And if we continue to treat them as if they were crime problems, then we're going to keep missing the mark and not mitigate some of these things. This is no parent accountability, a weakened system, juvenile justice system. This is a whole lot of things. Guns that are plentiful, that are being allowed to permeate these neighborhoods. This hostility amongst our youth. I don't know what that is a result of. I don't know whether it's a result of COVID. I know I've seen an uptick in hostility since the COVID pandemic. And so those are some of the explanations as to why we're seeing this. And I think that we're kidding ourselves. And I think the reason why Annapolis does so well in responding to it, because we do take a social approach and a community approach along with our enforcement. See, some jurisdictions is all about enforcement. That's what drives it. You have your CompStat and these accountability sessions where commanders are beaten up and in terms of what they're not doing to increase the arrest numbers. But we do it differently in Annapolis. We try to balance it because we know that the only way you're going to prevent crime is try to change the thinking and the behavior of the individuals, take the reason away, try to identify what the hostility is and do our very best. And of course, we're not perfect, but to do our very best, like through reentry and programs like that, to try to give people hope so that they don't pick up a gun to exact revenge or to express their dissatisfaction with whatever the situation may be. In addition, but once you cross that threshold and pull that trigger, then we're going to pull out all the guns and revert to traditional police work in terms of holding people accountable in the court of law for their actions. And I think that we're still trying to perfect that balance so that they integrate or dovetail, with one another accurately. So I think that I hope that answers the question. That's what we're trying to do, and that's what we've been trying to do since I've been here. That's the community policing model that I see.
Just kind of thinking through what you're talking about, and we've had a few discussions, not in great detail, about human behavior. And kind of the more you reiterate something over and over and over again, and we talked about the back in the 60s when you had the littering problem, and there was a message, a public service announcement over and over and over again, and you can see the changes. That might be something that you and our superintendent, Dr. Bedell, and the mayor may want to get together and start targeting public service announcements toward what you see as maybe social media, and certain human behaviors, especially with youth through Dr. Bedell and even Ms. Maddox Evans, who's the executive director of the Housing Authority. I'm just thinking through while you were talking, this might be something we want to do on a consistent basis, that we want to do it over. And we have a great communications team here. And so does the school system. I know that for sure. And that might be something we want to do on a monthly basis, that just hits those messages over and over and over and over again until we start to see, and we will, I do believe, we'll start to see some changes in behavior, because it's done. We see it on TV all the time. And when we had, Smokey the Bear and and forest fires and way back in the day, but even now, those commercials are targeting certain audiences. And if you hear it and you see it 1,000 times over, you're more likely to probably follow it for whatever reason. But just thinking about it, I think that's something we need to really take a look at, that we want to do. And I know you do have regular communication and meetings with Dr. Bedell. So the next time you all speak about it, that might be something. And even, with the county. But I think we all need to get together and do these targeted messages over and over and over again, because they have worked in other arenas in the past. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. As a matter of fact, I had an idea, and I probably shouldn't say it, but they're going to steal it. But this is one of those ideas that I hope they do steal it and other jurisdictions start doing it. I think it'd be nice if myself and Dr. Bedell and maybe a pastor that's willing to do it, we get together and talk about that very thing, and talk about the fact that we need more family, faith, and education, and so that we can have less police, courts, and corrections, and find a way to craft a very clever message. But as you was articulating that, one of my favorite commercials from the 1960s used to be "Lock your car, take your keys." And it used to show the kids stealing a car, and they'd go over the traffic light, and it shows that then it switches to the police officers. They had a fatal accident as a result of a stolen car. And then at the end of it, you probably remember that, Stan, because you're old like me. And then at the end, it would say, "Lock your car, take your keys." And so you're absolutely right. There was a whole lot of them. Do you know where your children are at 11 o'clock? And they used to read,
Right.
They would hammer those points home. And so that's a good idea. And we can start working on that. But I did have the idea that you have an educated superintendent, myself, or Chief Awad, and public safety people, first responders, education, and the clergymen, and say, "Hey, this ain't the way to go," and appeal to a public service announcement that we got to come together, because if we don't, then we're only intensifying, we're escalating instead of de-escalating, and so those messages are very powerful mediums to make their point home. So
Let's try to put together some sort of, with everybody, because we've got all the brainiacs sitting at the table today, to put together a plan along with your strategic plan.
and my deputy chief just reminded me. I'm sorry, ma'am.
No, go right ahead.
No, we're starting a podcast too next month. We're going to be getting out messages regularly, having guests. I'll be doing them regularly. So will OEM and the fire chief. And we're going to have public safety points and interviews and talk about topical issues, not political ones, but topical ones. Some of them are rooted in the politics. We're going to talk about demystify some of this stuff, because there's a lot of people that still have this fear of customs, and that's legit. They have a fear of this proliferation of handguns. That's legit. How can we, send our children out as we get into the height of the summer, when you have very hot days and children want to be outside, playing in the water or doing what children do on hot summer days, and they remain safe. And so, yes, ma'am, we're going to have a lot of messaging. We're going to start our podcast next month. Cortland's vigorously working on that now, so it can be top notch.
Because school closes in about 2 to 3 weeks. So that would be great. But also those 30-second bites that people really kind of hone in on, that you can do throughout the community, different communities. Doesn't matter which community it is. But just targeted the podcast and the method of just the 30 to 15 to 30 second sound bites that people can really hook into, and I know Ms. Stevenson is great at putting things together, and Cortland is as well. So working with them and really coming up with a strategic plan that joins with the one that you're already doing with your crime plan. But I think that really would be extraordinarily helpful. We've never, in my thought process, we've never done anything that we really, really target and hone in on. And I think it will make a big difference in changing attitudes and minds and behavior. And we all need a behavior change and a behavior switch and a behavior gotcha moment to kind of do that. And so I would like to see something by our next public safety meeting in July, if not sooner, because like I said, school will be closing on the 13th in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. I think it's the 13th. And so we really would like to roll into something like that, that people can hone in on and really be a part of it, and some slogans or whatever we can use to really define what we want to do. So I hate to put more on your plate, but I think it will be advantageous and helpful.
Oh, I agree,
Come back.
Madam Chair, and we will. We're working on it. Cortland updated me yesterday, and we will have something very soon.
And it'd be nice for the next month.
We'll have it definitely by then. We'll have something really. I said next month, but this is June already. I'm
for our
still
next
thinking
public
May.
safety meeting.
But we'll-
Can we have something for
Yes,
our
ma'am.
meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Whether it's a clip from a podcast or just a 30-second bite. soundbite.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
And by the way, let me correct the podcast. We should have that done sometime late this month. Yeah, next week. Next week, I was going. My deputy chief said next week.
Great. And I'm sure Miss Stevenson will put something out, maybe a press release with Cortland as well, to let everybody know that it's coming and that's something new we're doing and exciting. And people may have suggestions. And you also, I'm just throwing this out here too, you may want to have people in the community who want to join you in giving the message.
Oh, absolutely.
The 30-second bite. You might want to have someone from the Clay Street, from Ward 2, who might want to join you in this 30-second sound bite. People like to see themselves and be a part of something that's working and something that's advantageous for everybody. So that's another little wrinkle, I won't call it, but another little additive to put to that. So I think that would be a lot. And people like to see their neighbors on screen.
Mm-hmm.
It helps to push the message out. So
Yes, ma'am.
so you can work with Alderwoman O'Neill, since we're talking Ward 2 today.
Mhm.
And I'm sure she has some people who would love to do that in the community. So I'm just kind of throwing out things at the moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Consider it done.
Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. I think I've covered, well, I know we can talk about where Ward 2 stands in terms of its ranking with the other wards. We know that homicide, they've had 0 in their ward. Let me, you go ahead and take that. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. So just to piggyback off of, what Chief Jackson just articulated. So as it relates to the homicides for 2025 compared to 2024, we're neck and neck 3. As it relates to the non-fatal shootings and the dischargings, we're up 1%. And that's specifically due to a specific group that's in our neighbor's backyard, and our neighbor being Anne Arundel County. That has, due to a social media beef, they've come to Annapolis at Liberty, discharging in various communities, causing the uptick in the violence as far as the non-fatal shootings and the discharging. We're currently, we have a strategy. It seems to be long-term, but I want to put a little oomph in the taking these people away, not giving them the opportunity to come back to Annapolis to continue that same behavior. We were able to subtract 2, so there was a lull in the action for a time period. Started back. Now that this same group is aware that law enforcement is on to them, they're kind of discombobulated. So we want to go in now with our partners, and we want to serve them a final blow, and put these people where they rightfully belong. So there's a strategy in play now to dismantle this group of folks who just find it within their will to come here and just indiscriminately and shoot up our communities. So we should have something concrete within. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting tomorrow to outline this plan and to get this going forward. The Attorney General, the Attorney General's office is taking lead on this investigation, and it's a spirited collaboration between the APD, the Anne Arundel County Police Department, and our federal partners. So that's the uptick that we see as it relates to the non-fatal shootings and the discharging. The majority of these are strictly, they've been committed by this one particular group. And since there has been a lull in the action and the chief kicked off the summer crime plan, we're trending in the right direction. Over the last 30 days, we've seen a reduction in the discharging of 33%.
Great.
The non-fatal shootings in the last 30 days, a reduction of 50%, as well as all shots fired calls, a reduction of 40%. So we're definitely trending in the right direction as we get into the hot summer months, and we want to continue to build off of that success. So we know going forward that that we have a lot of work to do, but I think the trends that we're seeing now is a spirit of teamwork between patrol, admin, and operations, being on the same sheet of music and just doing what we can to make Annapolis that much safer.
That's extraordinarily encouraging, and congratulations on what you're doing and recognizing what the issue is and addressing it head on. And I do believe, even I'm just going to say this, couple that with the PSAs and getting the word out, and so the community is now part of your crime plan as far as lowering what's going on untoward in the community. So that is huge. That's definitely at least 90% of it. But putting the icing on the cake is the other 10% where our residents feel a part of the crime plan as well, through something as simple, for lack of a better word, as a PSA involvement. So thank you. That's
Yes,
great.
ma'am.
And it's gotten back to me. It's gotten back to me. I talked to the mayor Saturday, and it's gotten back to me that the community at large, beyond Ward 2, but just the community at large, has been very pleased with the activity that they've seen involving our officers. So I have to thank Captain Thacker. His learning curve here was very, very short, and he's made an immediate impact. So the troops are now motivated to go out and do some of the more traditional things. As part of our duties are to go out and we have warrants and criminal summonses. They should be served. There shouldn't be a backlog. And if it is a backlog, we should be able to show that we took some of our discretionary time to do those type of things, to serve warrants. They're orders from the court, and they shouldn't sit there on the shelf and not get served once a judicial official or just judicial authority signs it. We're commanded by law to serve those warrants. So that's the kind of stuff that citizens, I'm not talking about people who have criminal justice and law degrees. I'm talking about citizens are saying they're seeing these officers more active and in carrying out these duties, they still remain respectful to citizens and polite. And that's the kind of force that I think that we as a city envision our officers to be. Even we have to do the unpleasant things like hold people accountable and take them into custody. You would hope that it's done with the minimal amount of force, number one, and that the officer still is able to de-escalate so nobody loses their dignity. And you know, things happen in life and people have to be held accountable in a court of law, but we do our very best to try to do it in a way that doesn't leave a sour taste in the mouth of the community. So,
And Chief, I would
uh-huh.
stop you right there. I want to thank Captain Thacker. A couple things since he's been on board. Number one, the unfortunate young man that was struck by a car on West Street, and he's been there front and center to provide us with information and direction on what the city can do in that situation, even though West Street is a state roadway. And we had the state folks out there and our delegation from the state and the county as well and the city. But just want to thank him for that presence and direction for that and only being here a couple of months. But the other thing is too, I guess it was about right before he left for vacation, we had a meeting with the store manager at Safeway. And the gentleman who's new to the Safeway store at that location came from Arnold. And I think we were quite impressed by what Captain Thacker had to provide to us, direction and information and strategy on moving forward. Because we have talked about several times that Safeway as well as Kohl's seems to be, I see Captain Howard shaking his head, is the bane of my existence in Ward 3 when it comes to thefts that, and Captain Howard and I have talked about, we don't want it to raise to the level of a robbery. But the new store manager was extremely pleased with the meeting we had, and then he had the assistant store manager there as well. But also we talked about when you returned that we would go to Kohl's and do the same thing. That's something we haven't done. And so I think it was extremely important. Just your presence there was at that meeting to give us direction on how we can prevent things from happening and to really address that. So I look forward to meeting with the Kohl's folks in the next week or two or whatever we can schedule. But when we get, and I'm thinking about all this because people need to know. And when we get done with the presentation, I want each one of you to kind of give the audience, the viewing public, the listening public, just 2 minutes about yourselves and what background you've brought to the city of Annapolis. And Cap Miguez has been here and been in the trenches a long time. And I was just talking to someone recently who had great kudos about her work since she's been here with the police department. But 2 minutes for each of you all when we get to the end. I just want people to know what we have here. I think it's tremendous, and people need to know. And so we're going to do that. So excuse me for cutting you off.
Oh, no,
Chief,
ma'am.
Go right ahead.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I don't have much more to say other than I think the biggest challenge with all 8 wards, to be honest, and Ward 2 is no exception, is those quality of life type crimes, the stolen autos, the larceny or thefts from autos, the street crimes like purse snatch and all quality of life things, and then the offenses that are not counted in our index crime, like we're going into the summer months now, and we'll have to be mindful that more people will be out, more people will be enjoying libation, especially in downtown, and it filters out to other wards too. I mean, it's in the neighborhoods as well, and we have to be mindful to make sure that we are on top of those quality of life type crimes, like having too much to drink and driving, and loud music and things like that. But if we could talk about real quickly, he can do it faster than me. Give Captain Howard an opportunity just to kind of go over all the index crime,
Yes, sir.
separate from the homicides.
Yes, sir.
So you can do that now. And that's how we'll end it.
So we'll go to the next category, which is rape. Ward 2 was tied for last with 1 rape. It wasn't domestic. We go into the aggravated assaults. It's like I talked about earlier regarding the dischargings and the number of shootings that we had, specifically tied to a group that's in our neighbor's backyard. The majority of our non-fatal shootings, our ag assaults, are coming specifically from this particular group. So that's what's encouraging about the aggravated assaults. Outside of that one particular group, there is no discernible trend, which there is no warring factions between communities here that are situated here in Annapolis. So that's encouraging. So, and we'll continue to, keep our foot down on the gas, working with the Attorney General's office, as well as our partners in Anne Arundel County and our federal partners to dismantle this group as fast as we possibly can. We want to do it the right way. We want to make sure that we dot all of our I's and cross all of our T's, and make sure that when we visit them and give them silver bracelets, that they're going to sit and they're going to stay. So that's the focus going forward as it relates to the aggravated assaults, the shootings, and things of that nature. Robberies, Ward 2 is 6. Again, no discernible patterns as it relates to the robberies. Burglaries, Ward 2 is 3rd. One domestic, the other, here we go. 5 residential, no force, which means that either the door was unlocked or a window was unlocked and the perpetrator had easy access into the residence.
And that's another PSA, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that goes right into what the chief was talking about, the quality of life crimes, the thefts. And we can drop right down to the thefts. Ward 2 is tied third. 42 from motor vehicles, 20 shoplifting, 8 from a building, 3 motor vehicle parts, 15 all other, so on and so on. The motor vehicle thefts, Ward 2 is 6. Last out of the 8 wards, they had 6. 1 suspect known to the victim. But here's the key. 6 of the 6 incidents, the vehicle was left unlocked. And we've been talking about this for every ward since we started these presentations. And to the Annapolis PD's credit, we put this out so much that I could almost regurgitate it verbatim, lying home in my bed with my eyes closed. The things that we put out to everyone to safeguard themselves from being victimized by folks coming in their houses, going into their cars, lock the doors, take all your valuables out, ad nauseum. But it still persists. So we'll continue to do that, the education piece, along with the enforcement piece, and we'll strive each day just to make Annapolis that much safer.
And I'm going to stress again, get a couple of people in the neighborhood who live in the different wards, and just say, would you be willing to say, lock your car, take your keys, kind of thing, because people like to see their neighbors on camera, and they're more likely, I think, not that they won't listen to you all, but if they see their neighbor on camera saying this, it might resonate more. Just put it this way, it can't hurt. That's how I see it. So we can try that as well. So.
I was talking to a gentleman right here in Annapolis, and one day, this was a couple years ago, and I saw him get out of his car on Main Street, and there was a lot of people out, and it was daytime. But I was dressed like this. Well, y'all know I'm never dressed, but I was dressed like this. And I said something to him. I was by myself. I said, well, sir, I'm chief of police, city of Annapolis. First thing he said, was a white male. He said, I know you are. And he said, then he smiled. I said, well, you didn't lock your door. He said, yeah. He said, I don't have anything in there. He said, look, I have to weigh the cost of what's in there versus what my insurance deductible will be. And so when I decide to leave my car open, I'd rather for them to come in my car and I don't have anything. If they take anything, there's nothing in there that's of any value. that would be less than the deductible I would have to pay if they broke my window. He said, I have nothing in there. My deductible is $250. I have nothing in there of value. So that's why I left my door open. And I thought about it. And then I think I went to Chicken Roost and I was sitting there eating my sandwich. I said, darn, that makes a little bit of sense. When, because it would cost him more just to lock his car. I know you guys say you lock your car because that's the thing to do. But I didn't lock my car because I'd rather for him just to go in there and rummage around and not find anything than to break my side mirror. And he had a nice looking car. And it cost me $250 or $500 deductible. The only reason why I put that out there is because a lot of times it's a complex issue and we talk to it blue in the face, but people's motivations are interesting. And so I learned from that a little bit. So as a part of how we get this messaging out, we have to take that. That's why a lot of people do it, because they figure it'll cost them more if they lock the car. That satisfies us, when we play McGruff. And take a bite out of crime, but for them, it's an economic thing. So I'd rather leave my door open and they rummage through it and not find anything than them break my window and it costs me. My deductible is more than anything they would have found anyway. Interesting. I'm not saying it's interesting. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Right.
Just an interesting analysis. So just to give you some perspective and the viewers some perspective. But we got to find a way, because we don't know the motivation for them breaking into the car. The cars can't be hot wired as rapidly as they can, like they used to in the old days, because the way cars are made now, they're pretty much computers. But who knows what they're going to do once they get in there, and we have to be mindful of that too. So we'll continue to study that and try to come up with a good messaging, because that's one of the biggest quality of life problems that we have is theft from autos. As you see, we had 42 in Ward 2 and only 6 stolen autos. And of those 6, I believe they were unlocked with the keys in them. And as my mama used to say, those are more trifling than the other ones, when you leave the keys in the car.
Yeah.
And
That's a whole nother dynamic.
Yeah, and I think the transportation article has a law. It's a law against leaving your keys in the car, and people can gain access. But we'll study that dynamic. And if you permit me, I'd like to say one more thing that we're doing, our crime plan a little bit, give an overview of that. We still have, we've been in the neighborhoods. We've had a couple of movie nights. We've had a couple of other events headed by Captain Howard and his people. And they've been very well received. On Friday, I drove. It took me 3 hours to get there, a little over 3 hours, but I met with the Department of Recs director, Rosalind Johnson, and we went to St. Mary's County and looked at this very sprawling, extremely beautiful camp that we want to take some children from Annapolis, particularly in your ward, as a result of the shooting that occurred. We had talked about it at First Baptist at the community meeting. At the town hall, and it can accommodate literally hundreds of kids. There's several acres, and there's so many activities you can do. At some point, because it was Rosalind's idea, so at some point, I would hope that the council has the opportunity for her to talk about it. But the land is owned by the D.C. Department of Parks and Recs. And they very warmly received us, Washington, D.C. Parks and Recs. And I think they offered us 80 slots. We can take 80 young people and their parents to the camp. We haven't set a date yet, but we also plan on just showing children from Clay Street a different environment. Let them get out and the air smell differently. Nothing surrounded them by nothing but water and peace. And not only that, but we're working on bringing clinicians to the camp to talk about trauma and how to manage trauma, how to identify it. So we're going to put together an agenda, myself and Rosalind Johnson, and then we're going to set a date sometime probably in the fall. But the camp, they're going to support us by having children experience a chef that's going to cook food. They're going to experience campfire food, and they're going to have a chef to actually cook them meals. It's just opportunities that many of them will never get. And then I plan on being there and speaking on making healthy choices and how to protect yourself and how to walk away from an event that could ultimately be deadly. We don't know that a great percentage of our children, I don't remember the percentage, I used to walk around in my head, but young people in urban environments all across the country, many of them die from encounters with people that they'll never, if they just walked away, they may never see them again. And so, you know what I mean, the guy bumps into them that they don't know, and next thing you know, it's a stabbing or shooting. And had they just simply walked away and de-escalated, they would have never have seen that person again anyway. So why die over things like that? So that's some of the things we're going to work with these young people, and then encourage them just to have hope. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how this camp is going to develop, and I'll keep you posted. And I'm sure that Rosalind Johnson will keep you posted too, because many of the participants, if not most, depending on who agrees to go, will come from Clay Street in that area, because that's where we promised the residents at the town hall that we would work with them to deal with the trauma. And we'll talk to everybody. We'll talk to Jen Corbin and Lieutenant Thomas and get as many experts as we can to help us participate in that. And then I think the last thing is along crime. I think Captain Miguez, you helped me craft a statement for the Department of Anne Arundel County for hate crimes. If you want to talk about that a little bit.
So one of the grants we were able to partner on for, it actually covers 3 different fiscal years. The Department of Health through Anne Arundel County and the Anne Arundel County Police Department applied for a hate crimes grant, a federal grant, and they're putting out a press release about their activities and our activities with that grant. So that grant provides for some overtime for us, for our officers, to do outreach when there is a hate crime. And then it also provides for some equipment purchases relating to hate crimes as well. So they've been announcing their activities. You may have seen they had an event at the West Street Library recently. So,
And she helped me with the press release, and then I read it. I was at the camp. I didn't tell you that part. I was at the camp looking at that beautiful water, and I said, "Damn, I'm smart. I didn't realize I was that smart." So thank you, Captain. Yes, the words were wonderful, and so I get credit for saying it, but I just want to give her a shout out for putting that together for me. So thank you, Captain Miguel.
Great. Thank you so much, Chief and leadership team. Alderwoman O'Neill, questions, comments?
My only comment is, I think we'll see you on Thursday. You're going to be on Bertina Nick Way and Clay Street with hot dogs and hamburgers, 5 to 7.
Yes, ma'am. Part of the crime plan. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to get the word out for that.
Yes, ma'am. And many people come out and then just mingle with us and just have a good time. And that way we want the support. So when we have to come there with warrants to hold people accountable for doing really bad things, we want the neighborhood to know that we care enough to fellowship with you, but we care enough to make sure that your neighborhood is free and clear of trigger pullers as well. And we have that to do with Bywater, and we have a lot of work to do this summer. But hopefully if we can stay active and focus, we can all come together at the end of the summer and talk about what a great summit was in terms of minimizing or mitigating the violence.
Right. Great.
Great. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for that information.
Yes,
And we're
ma'am.
going to go around the horn. We'll start with Captain Miguez, 2 minutes or so to just tell us something about yourself. I think that the public needs to know what stellar type of people we have on the command staff with Annapolis Police Department. And sometimes the other thing is too, we need to be reminded. Sometimes we forget, and I'm not going to say we take you for granted, but we need to be reminded ourselves about who we have working for us each and every day, 24/7, 366. So,
Right.
Captain Miguez.
yes, ma'am. So Captain Amy Miguez with Annapolis Police Department. I've worked for the department for 25 years. My family moved to Anne Arundel County when I was in high school, and I've lived here since. My first experiences of Annapolis were actually visiting to pick up midshipmen. I had friends whose parents sponsored, actually relatives that were midshipmen at the time. So it was very limited with the traffic getting into the city during those busy periods and getting out. Then I attended St. John's College for a year, and that was my first experience living in the city. My first experience with Clay Street area was actually walking to the free clinic that used to be in the Stanton Center. So it was a community benefit even for college students at that time. I ended up moving to the city. I became interested in criminal justice. I did a ride along with our police department at that time and became a dispatcher. So I did that for 2 years and then continued on to be an officer. I've worked in every division in the department. This is my first time in administrative services, though. So it's a learning curve because it pretty much includes anything that's not a police matter, which I feel pretty confident in handling. Along the way, I finished my undergraduate degree, not at St. John's, and I just got my master's in public safety leadership just this month.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So I'm very happy to be here. I love Annapolis. Like I said, I'm a county resident, though I don't live in the city. My kids go to public schools, and I just feel very connected with the community, and I hope that they feel the same about me.
Great. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Director Lakeisha Blue. I just joined the department on March 27th of this year. Prior to that, I've worked for Baltimore City Police Department for 27 years. It would actually be 28 years, June 17th, coming up. So I started out 1997, joined the department as a community service officer, which was a civilian position. Somebody decided it wasn't a good idea because we were in uniforms, we had badges, but we had no guns, and we were supposed to handle neighborhood disputes, things like that. And somebody said, "Oh, these kids are gonna get hurt," because we were young people at the time. In 2000, I switched over to join the police department. Went into the police academy. I went to patrol, Southeast District Patrol. From there, I went to the District Detective Division, where I investigated burglaries, robberies, shootings, things of that nature. Stayed there for approximately 2 years. After that, I went to Criminal Intel Unit, where I worked computer and electronic crimes, where we investigated child pornography cases, things of that nature. White collar crimes. We work with NW3C, National White Collar Crimes, and the state police. We had a memorandum of understanding with the state police. And I also went to school for computer forensics. Went to the FBI school for network intrusions while I spent time in criminal intel. From there, I was promoted to sergeant, and I was sent back to patrol in the Western District. I was in the Western District for approximately 2 years. During my time there, I served as the community. I did patrol, and then I did 6 months in community relations. I worked in community relations for approximately a year. From there, I went to internal affairs. I worked minor investigations and serious investigations. I was promoted to lieutenant while I was in internal affairs. From there, I was the commander of, they centralized everything, because at one point you had complaints there. The minor complaints were handled by the districts, and then the more serious complaints was handled by internal affairs. So I was the commander when they decided to centralize everything in PIB, and I was supposed to get everything consistent because everybody was coming from various districts. So I was the lieutenant of that unit. From there, I was promoted, not a promotion. I was still a lieutenant, but I was moved to the ethics division, where I supervised more serious crime, like police corruption, where officers was indicted, things of that nature. You probably heard of Gun Trace Task Force. We worked closely. We had an FBI task force that worked out of that unit that I oversaw as well. From there, I was promoted to captain, and I retired to come here to serve Annapolis Police Department. And I'm glad to be here. I look forward to working with everyone. I probably took over more than 2 minutes, but that's my background.
Well, what
And
are
I
you
am a
doing
mother.
here?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
What are you doing here?
I am the director of the Internal Affairs Division here. Yes,
And you're gonna say you're a mother, but go ahead. I want you to complete that sentence.
I am a mother of 3.
All right.
Yes, I am. I'm a mother of 3. I was married. My husband was murdered in January of 2025 while I was a captain in Baltimore Police Department. That was a traumatic event. But I'm here. I persevered, and I'm moving on. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm Captain Guy Thacker, and Lakeisha Blue keeps me out of trouble. I'm a 33-year policing professional. I, too, also came from Baltimore. My career began in 1992. This predates a lot of the super cool technology that we have today in modern-day law enforcement. I think the chief and the deputy chief could tell you the condition of Baltimore Police Department late 80s, early 90s, these police stations might have these old, antiquated computer terminals.
I was there.
So you know. So that's how my career starts. But it was pretty cool at the time because I broke in a traditional way. I broke in as a foot officer in the Eastern District, which was one of 2 very challenging districts historically for Baltimore City. I came in with a college degree. I'd gone to Towson State, political science, public administration, minored in geography and urban planning. Thought I was going to be a school teacher. Thought I was going to teach language arts in Anne Arundel County. At the last second, Ron Daniels calls me. I had applied to police departments. There was a recession going on. And he said, "You still want to be a police?" I said, "Yeah, I think I do." And so told the Anne Arundel County School Board that I was going to go a different direction. And I thought if I was a total bust at being a police officer, I could always go back and teach school. But the whole teaching thing never really left me. In my career, I spent 24 years in special operations. Now, the chief has talked about that background. And that background, if you're in that community, it's a community, all jurisdictions, they kind of work collaboratively. It forces you to understand that you have to build relationships, and, whether it's for equipment or personnel, for a very unique set of problems. I build myself as I present myself, I'll put it out there. I believe I'm a team builder and a problem solver. You can give me a unique set of problems. If I don't have the answer, I leverage relationships to find the answer, find the best course of action. I'm not shy about making decisions. I'll make decisions. This is where Lakeisha will keep me out of trouble. But there's a great rapport and cross dialogue that's going on amongst the peers right now in the APD. I can assure you of that. I love being a cop. I love wearing the uniform. I love being on the street. I love engaging with the community. I did retire from Baltimore. I had always admired Annapolis. This is my home county. I too grew up in Glen Burnie, went to Old Mill High School. But I always admired the city of Annapolis, what it had going on, the cool vibe. When I was done at work in Baltimore City for the day, and I wanted to go out and enjoy the evening, I would come to Annapolis. And so now I'm here, and my mission is to keep Annapolis humming along the way I know that it can be, and that I would enjoy a nice summer evening walking down by the docks, or up on West Street, or near the Parole Shopping Center. All those areas, they're super cool. I intend on keeping it that way. And that's me, Guy Thacker, here for a while. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am Deputy Chief Stan Branford. I am a TARS, 5'10", about 210 pounds. Anyway, my career started really right after high school in 1978. I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, where I stayed there for 10 years. When I joined the police department, I was a little older than most people who went into the academy at the age of 21. That was an advantage to me because I had that discipline going in, and it worked well for me. I am a 36-year veteran of law enforcement. I spent the first 29 years in Baltimore City, retired in Baltimore City. I started in the Western District, which was one of the most challenging districts in Baltimore City. When I was in the Western District, that's when I met Chief Jackson at the time. He came over as a brand new sergeant. And coming from the Northeast District, he was a little mystified at how we policed in the Western District. Throughout my career with Baltimore City, I retired at the rank of colonel. I commanded the Eastern District. Well, first of all, I spent most of my time, probably about 25 years of the time I spent there in investigations. I commanded the Eastern District, Eastern District Commander. I commanded the homicide unit twice, and I actually retired as chief of all detectives when I left Baltimore City. Not a whole lot of exciting things. I know I met Captain Howard, was one of my sergeants in homicide. Captain Thacker, I remember meeting him for the first time during the riots. That's how we actually met. Always knew about him. Other than that, myself and Chief Jackson been friends for a very long time, and we actually been neighbors for the past 30 years. Right within walking distance of me. I'm happy to be here in Annapolis. My job is to keep this team together, get things done, result oriented, and try to do it in such a way to keep morale up and keep the team together and keep us communicating. And everybody here at this table is capable of getting the job done. It's the A team, and I really appreciate everybody here. And I really appreciate Captain Miguez over there. I call her the A team since I've been here, and I saw her from a sergeant coming up. It's not a task that you cannot give her that she can't complete, and I go to her for everything. So thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to jump over you, Chief, to Captain Howard.
Good afternoon again. My name is Captain Lamar Howard. I'm a carpetbagger from Baltimore City.
So am I.
I transitioned as a young soldier coming from the European theater. I came to Maryland in 1993. I finished up my last couple of years on active duty, and then I transitioned over to civilian law enforcement. I was fortunate enough and blessed enough to be accepted by the Baltimore Police Department. I entered the academy. I too started in the Eastern District, which was a very, very challenging environment. We would often win the Golden Casket Award because of the violence that was associated, and still to some degree, still associated with that geography. I was blessed, very blessed and fortunate to have as my first shift commander, Chief Jackson. Chief Jackson would come into roll call, and he would always talk about education. And that's something that I kept in the back of my mind during my tenure with the agency. Deputy Chief Stanley Branford, while I was in homicide, managing a squad, working multiple shifts, he supported me the entire process as I went back to school to finish my undergraduate and graduate degree. So I'm truly, truly blessed and appreciative of the leadership that was afforded me as a young officer with the Baltimore City Police Department. I spent 26 and a half years there. The bulk of my career was in criminal investigations and operations. Street units that were focused on removing handguns, drugs, and things from the streets of Baltimore. I learned a lot. Those assignments prepared me for today. Those skills that I still have on my tool belt are very helpful in a time of crisis. So I'm truly appreciative of that. I've been here now, believe it or not, I'm going into my third year here with the city of Annapolis. I got a phone call. I'm very grateful that I received that phone call, and I'm happy to continue to serve along with my colleagues here to continue to make Annapolis the shining light here in the state of Maryland.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson, put the timer on for 3 minutes, please.
No, I'm gonna be surprisingly.
I will be shocked, not surprised.
You'll believe it when you hear it, right? Yeah. Well, I'll say it's something funny because people don't realize that they see Stan and I driving together, but he says something that's very, very true. And if you ever come to Baltimore, we'll show you better than you tell you. We're neighbors. I can literally walk to his house. So if we would come into work, I would just ride by his house. Why bring two cars? We could save the city some gas money because we live that close to each other that we can walk. Not only were we colleagues 30-something years ago, but we all been neighbors for the last 30 years. So that's why I kept laughing. Why take two cars and we can
walk to his house and jump in his pool?
Yeah, so, but my journey's been an interesting one. I'll be quick. My journey's been an interesting one. I started out in policing 43 years ago in 1982. March the 10th, I graduated from the Baltimore Police Academy, assigned to the Northeast District in 1982. I spent 10 years in patrol as an officer, and then I came to the Western District where I linked up with Stan, and that was in 1992. And that's how long we've known each other, since 1992. And I stayed there for a couple of years, and then the abbreviated, I rose through the ranks, and I retired in 2004 as a full colonel in the Baltimore Police Department, where I was in charge of two positions at the highest rank of colonel, and that was community outreach and administration. One command, I commanded 27 PAL centers. In those days, we had we had a PAL center for each sector in Baltimore City. Had 27 sectors in those days, 28 sectors. I commanded those and other initiatives under Ed Norris, and I retired under Kevin Clark in a year 2004, June 30th, 2004, to accept an academic position. I remained a college professor and program director at Baltimore City Community College for 15 years, where I taught sociology and criminal justice to undergraduate students. I also lectured at Towson University, University of Baltimore, and my alma mater, Coppin State College. I'm a proud father of two Morehouse graduates, and my oldest boy has an MBA from NYU. So I raised two African-American males. They lived their entire life in Baltimore City. It was my mission not to lose them to the criminal justice system, and prayerfully through violence. But after I retired, my journey was a very interesting one. When Baltimore City went into consent decree as a result of the in-custody deaths for Freddie Gray, the mayor then and the police commissioner asked me to give up my faculty position and consider coming back into law enforcement. They hired me, the short versions, they hired me as the Inspector General. I'm certified through the Association of Inspector Generals at John Jay College in Manhattan, New York City. I still do hold a certification as a certified Inspector General. I did that for about a year and a half while Baltimore transitioned into the consent decree. I helped them get into the consent decree and sort out the paragraphs and how to approach them. I get a call from my deputy chief, amongst other people, and they said they had the opening for the chief of police in Annapolis. Well, out of 71 candidates, I was chosen as the chief of police in Annapolis. I hold a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice from Coppin State College, now university. I hold a master's degree from Johns Hopkins. I was in the very first class of the Police Executive Leadership Program. That was 30 years ago. I earned my master's from Johns Hopkins University. My concentration is community development. Also pursued a doctorate degree, finished all my coursework. It was in the dissertation phase from Capella University in public safety leadership. And on July 17th, on my birthday, my 60th birthday, Mayor Gavin Buckley nominated me to be the chief of police. That was in 2019. On my 60th birthday, he nominated me to be the chief of police for the city of Annapolis. And I think my first day of work was the 31st. And I've been here since the 31st of July of 2019. And so that's pretty much my journey. I had no intention. I thought my days in policing was over with, but I think Almighty God saw fit to bring me here for a reason. And I think I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to accomplish and to bring community policing, which is still unfinished, to the city of Annapolis. And I think it's one of the best departments that you'll find, not only in the region, but I'll put this department up against any department in the United States, really. It's not the biggest, but in terms of understanding neighborhoods and having a good rapport with our citizens, I just think it's one of the best out there.
Thank you, Chief. Alderwoman O'Neill, any comments, questions? Or
I know that was over 3 minutes, but
but what I like about this team is diversity, and I'm using that term loosely, and all the experiences and opportunities you all have had. And on a personal note, I know what it's like to work in Baltimore City, and what I've told people over and over again, it's not much, if anything, we haven't seen there that we can't use those tools here to fix what needs to be, what's broken. I'll use that loosely, but what we can improve upon. And having someone who's been here like Kat Miguez, I mean, she's got the historical and the baseline and the foundation of what's going on here, but we add to that what you all bring to this table, and I think it's tremendous, because I'm the only one here that can say that, because I know what it's like to work there and what challenges and what you can overcome there and what you can learn from there, and to be able to use those skills and talents to be able to bring what we need here in the city of Annapolis. And I'm so proud to be your public safety chair and to work with all of you all on a daily basis in many ways, but a great team and a great strength that we have here that, like Chief said, I put our team up against anybody's, anywhere, because I've seen other teams, and this is tremendous. And thank you all, and we pray for your safety as well as the safety of all the folks that work in public safety here in the city of Annapolis, because that is extraordinarily important. Ms. Berger, you have anything to add? Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Jackson. Okay, I think we can get a motion to adjourn. So moved. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. And we have 3:44.